When she spoon and like a BB moment, which is like a beautiful black moment. Did we get any of those in this episode?
Black.
We have a chaotic vibe moment of the
Chaotic vibe moment. And you're watching Black by Reality.
Black by Baddies.
And those who love us.
Hello, you are watching and or listening to Black by Reality, a place for Black by Baddies and those who love us. I am your host, Nicole Weaver, an entertainment reporter currently writing about reality TV for Collider.com. And I am here with my co-host for the series, Quita Tinsely. Hi, Quita.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you feeling wrapping up season 6 of Love is Blind?
This has been the messiest season of Love is Blind yet.
Yes.
I feel like last season was like a lot of drama, but like this season is a lot of mess, just straight up messiness.
Yes, and I feel like at the reunion they tried to clean some of that up and try to make example out of people for the future. Will it matter? I don't know, because they're churning these out over and over. So the next season, these people haven't even watched this reunion yet.
Right. Yeah, like season 7 has already filmed, right? And they're already working on season 8 and 9.
Yeah, so we won't see the effects of this until later.
Right.
But it was all an attempt to distract us, probably, that only one couple in this cast is married.
Truly.
We like getting the easier ones out of the way. So Amy and Johnny, we catch up with them. They're still married. They seem still happy. They've been traveling with their families. The biggest thing that they had this season going on was contraception.
Right.
And we got some answers. How do we feel about them addressing condoms?
Well, I just thought it was interesting that like when asked the question, they were like, yeah, it was always an option. So it was like, what? So what are we stressed about then? Like,
I mean, no.
Right.
I'm just calling BS.
Right.
No. And then I thought it was very interesting. I don't know if you noticed, but Amy was like, oh, if I would have had to change something, she's still not on birth control. She's like, but if I would have, we would have been on opposite ends of the couch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like there were like several times where I feel like she was trying to like assert her autonomy within the relationship, or like trying to make sure that there wasn't a certain like narrative that was being pushed about maybe gender norms in their relationship either. Because even with like the JCPenney photo shoot, it was like her and her sister-in-law, I guess, were like look like they were worshiping their male partners, and she's like, it might look like that, but they worship the ground that we walk on, like, you know. And I was like, girl, I wasn't even thinking that deep about that photo, honestly. Like it just seemed playful.
No, I agree. I think Johnny actually does really respect Amy, really into her. Like, it was fine. I do think a lot of it was like, ooh, okay, good for you.
Right.
No.
Like, okay.
I don't have the same sense of humor, but sure. So there's not really anything else to say there. The biggest thing that this season started off with, or this reunion, should I say, is the Laura, Jeremy, Sarah Ann of it all.
Truly. Like, wow. Just right out the gate.
Right out the gate. I mean, woof. Okay, so Vanessa, she says that Sarah Ann and Jeremy have been living together since filming. They're like, yeah. So true. And then it all falls apart with like just a little bit more conversation.
Yep.
Yeah. And everyone's saying almost a year. I think online I've heard 8 months this reunion took place. So there you go. But basically, we have learned, thank Thank you, Chelsea, for chiming in. This group cannot stay away from each other, so everyone's business is just out there. So yes, Sarah Ann and Jeremy are trying to act like they're a united front, so in love. Oh my gosh. And then Chelsea's like, every time I see y'all, you're broken up. And Jeremy's like, when have you seen me? She said twice.
Right. He's like, no, I've only seen you once. And she was like, no, it's twice.
Yes. So it was like, what is the truth? All of a sudden now it's, well, we're a real relationship and we had real up and downs. So we've just been going through that. I'm very curious what that means.
I'm like, let's just call a thing a thing. They had to get together in order to make that situation look less sketchy and
Absolutely.
problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact, I think, even like when Sarah Ann walks out and like they're like holding hands so tightly with each other, and it's like Laura comes on screen and she's like, should we clap? And it's like, why wouldn't you clap? Why would you be upset with her? Like,
Exactly. And that's what I'm so glad Laura brought that up, because she was like, I was hoping you two would be on the stage with some humility. You had almost a year to reach out to me and you haven't. And now you're over here basically acting like I did you wrong. And it's like, yes, this doesn't make any sense. But Jeremy had that energy for Laura from the very beginning. And then Sarah Ann too, her calling Laura pick me triggered Jess for some reason.
right. I was just like, just baby, this ain't the situation for you to talk on, because you
Look,
low-key was doing the same thing, but you
look,
somehow skated out of it. Like, I don't.
wiggled. Okay, let's. For me, I don't think Jess was necessary. I know she's like being pushed because of Perfect Match, but like, if this white thin woman did not
Mhm.
look the way she did, she would not get as much airtime as she did in this reunion. This was crazy.
Way too much airtime. She spoke way too much for me. I'm like, baby, you didn't get engaged. Jimmy didn't choose
No.
you. So I honestly do not know why you're out here. Like, was she the only single that was out there the entire time?
That's a great question. Trevor. Yeah, because
She was the
Trevor
only
left.
Yeah, she was the only single that was there. And it's like technically Sarah Ann didn't get chosen, but it's like she is in a relationship with one of the people from the couples now.
Exactly.
So it's like, literally, why is Jess here? And
Because of
why does she
Perfect Match.
literally and why does she feel so comfortable to talk so much? Like,
And let's be honest, it's the fans, it's the Love is Blind fans who have also enabled this, because Chelsea has been put through the ringer the whole entire time
mhm,
for even saying people have told her she looked like Megan Fox. She herself said, I don't see it, but she still gets put through the ringer. And then this whole time, everyone's like, Team Jess. Jess later is like, when they were talking about her reunion with Jimmy and how there was chemistry, these two try to deny it. Honey Boo Boo was like, oh, I needed my EpiPen when I met you. And like, are we really playing right now? Like, Jess wasn't flirting with this man? Like, why are we why?
why?
Why? And then she gets mad at Jimmy for saying she got to go to edit. You did.
You did. I mean,
You got on a new show. Of course you got a good edit.
she she did bring up a good point around, like, they wouldn't have showed the thing with her and Laura, but I think again, it's like the reality is, like, the producers edit this show and they probably already knew that Jess would be someone who would go on to another show, right? And so the way that they constructed her story, because the reality is she
Mm-hmm.
was not made to seem nearly as bad as Sarah Ann was, even though they were doing almost the same thing, except clearly it went way further with Sarah Ann than it did with her and
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy. But I'm just like, y'all were kind of doing the same thing. And I think
Mm-hmm.
also we have to be honest, I think, too, about how, because of what Jess looks like, I think that also does she gets treated differently. It's like, it's not surprising to me that she's friends with Micah, right? Because I think when you think of
Look,
Micah and Arena from their season, they were doing the same exact things, but somehow Micah comes out as not being bad in this whole thing, and Arena was like she was like the worst person on that season. I'm like,
mm-hmm.
literally Micah would put the battery in her bag.
Mm-hmm. And that also can be coming down to looks. I know people on social media will probably say pretty privileged, da, 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 da. I hate the term pretty privilege. It's not pretty privilege. It's usually racism. It's usually
Yeah,
fat phobia. Like, we
right,
already have words for all of these systematic things and why certain people get away with a lot more. Um, in the public eye and with on shows like these, like, people
right,
want to root for just say that, just admit that. Like,
right.
they would probably turn her around of like, we don't like her because the way she looks. It's like, no, we're just, we notice that it doesn't make any sense for as much time that she got. Anyone else would not get this much time. They would have also escorted her out. Honestly, there were too many sofas on this stage.
There were just like yeah, I'm like, I don't know why Jess is here this
I
whole
don't know.
time. Because
Yes.
it's like she could have been brought out during like Chelsea and Jimmy's segment,
Yes.
the same way that they brought out Trevor. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that she was there the whole time and like felt so bold to try to insert herself in Laura. And it's like, I also know clearly she was close to Laura. Like, they were speaking. It's
Mm-hmm.
Laura who she's speaking to about Jimmy. But I'm just like, girl, you and Sarah Ann are two sides of the same coin. Like, please do not try to go in on her right
Mm-hmm. And a
now.
lot of this was damage control in some ways, because like, her speaking over Sarah Ann, she was like, look, I'm the one who can relate to you the most because I was actually in your position, but you weren't considerate to other people.
Right.
And she gets to later of when she considerate herself. So it's like, yeah, that's all true. But yeah, she made sure to be like, Sarah Ann, we're not gonna be calling Laura pick me, because first of all, she was actually picked. she was
She
actually
was.
Yeah, she was actually picked and then did not like the man. Like, the opposite energy of a pick me, actually.
Right. Which
She
I'm
couldn't
shocked
stand
they
him.
didn't ask her about that around, like, they didn't ask her about the fact that even her parents noted of how like
Mhm.
her and Jeremy seemed to have like it went beyond playful to like low-key kind of mean in
Yes.
energy towards each other.
Yes.
I felt like we focused on the drama with Sarah Ann for way too long. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I wasn't interested. Partly
Mhm.
because it's like most of their relationship happened outside of the show itself, you know?
Agreed. I also think this was very meta. I think the fact that they also put up Sarah Ann's TikTok saying, this is entertainment, we entertained you. They were like, Laura's 96-year-old grandmother had a plane ticket for her wedding. This is her real life. Then they show all of the people, the couples who decided to make it
Yeah,
to this. They were like, this is their life. But it's like, also, let's not pretend, guys, this is not a TV show. And Nick and
it's
Vanessa
literally a TV
Lachey,
show.
you are going to be caring about ratings very much. The way you framed this reunion was for ratings.
Literally. Yeah, it's like literally taking notes from social media about how folks have always been like, why don't we ask them any of the questions that we have as viewers? And then this
Mm-hmm.
reunion, literally asking them questions from social media, noting things that came out afterwards, like from exes or other
Mm-hmm.
partner. I'm just like,
Right, right. So they were like, future people, if you try to accuse our show. And then it's so funny because they're like, Sarah Ann, we're not going to let this slide, that you're like, oh, this was for entertainment. But then later on, several people were like, well, I was back to real life. Like, Jess was like, I was back to real life. Like, you guys were still on the trip. Sarah Ann says the same thing. And it's like, we're
yeah,
really talking around that this is a freaking show. But okay.
right,
Uh,
exactly.
let's get to Trevor.
It was the Trevor countdown for me. I was like, oh, y'all already on some bullshit.
So, yeah, I was like, why do we have a countdown to Trevor? They did not tease whatsoever that they were actually going to go in as hard into Trevor as
Ooh,
they did. That was
yeah.
a surprise.
They were really making examples out of it. Was like it started, they teed it up with Sarah Ann, where
Mm-hmm.
her little tiki talk, and then they
Mm-hmm.
really laid in on Trevor.
Ooh, I have never seen a person want to disappear into the ground, into the earth. He was like sitting there like trying. He was like, oh, they're not gonna keep talking or like move on to the next thing. They're actually gonna wait me out. I've been there. A good interviewer will wait
Wait
out
you
that
out.
subject.
Like, no.
You're gonna answer this question. So Trevor comes out, he has the mullet back, which I thought was so calculated. I
It
think
literally was.
everything about him is so calculated. So the mullet's back, he's sitting there. Again, he looks like he is the outfits were bad the whole entire time.
Yeah, he definitely was dressed. It was like him, what he was wearing compared to everyone else. It's like y'all
Mhm.
can't be going to the same places. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
Trevor looked like a high school teacher.
Mhm.
And everybody else is like all glammed up. But that is
Mhm.
his version of glammed up because it was the same thing with his initial interview.
Yes. Now, I will also say the public reaction to Trevor throughout this whole thing is also can copy and paste everything we said about Jess
Mm-hmm.
to Trevor, because like it really annoyed me when things were not going smoothly between Chelsea, and they were all like, well, she should have picked Trevor. And it's like, let's be so for real. Let's act like we've met men before. like
Right.
like and Trevor was so, oh, but people, I come on this show because everyone just reads me as a meathead. If you watch our Meet the Cast video, which I
Yeah.
reshared after the reunion, his bio said he was looking for a woman who can keep up with his gym routine. And I was automatically not having it. We don't see him talk
Mm,
about that at all. But Chelsea,
mm,
she did a great interview with her friend Sarah Alysse.
mm,
I will link it below. But Chelsea says in that interview, Trevor was definitely talking about like the gym and exercise and making it so
mm.
evident that he does care about looks and would want a partner that looked a certain way. And Chelsea wasn't having it because she has
Mm.
intuition.
Yeah. And she said Trevor sounded like the type of guy she would normally date. So I'm sure he
Hmm.
sounded very familiar in a lot of ways to
Yes.
her.
Yes. So it's like, can we trust? Yes, Chelsea is insecure and she owns up to that and everything, but it's also like the wrong person will trigger you.
Yeah.
And she has some intuition to be like, Trevor was not going to be it. Back to Trevor and this text, the way Nick and Vanessa Lachey read these texts back to back.
Not this theatrical reenactment like
Yeah.
in real time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. So he was basically saying that he loved this woman. He's going away, but when I'm so excited to come back to you. He loves her more than anything in the world. Trevor's freezing. He freezes so long that 80 said, nah, say it with your chest, and people start
right.
laughing.
I know. But what he goes on to say, he's like, I had a whole thing planned out that I would say. And I believe he goes on to say that, and he knew how illogical it would sound if he said it. But I think
Mm-hmm.
when he starts going like, she wasn't my girlfriend, it's like he's saying that, but then you just heard these text messages. So he's like, this is what I had planned to say, y'all. I'm gonna just say it, even though it doesn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Because he was gonna try to lie his way out of it and be like,
Talking
we
about
weren't
marrying
that
this girl.
right. It's like you can't be like she wasn't, he was gonna try to sell us the story that she wasn't his girlfriend. They were
Mm-hmm.
never official, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
whether that was true or not, you were telling her you loved her and you wanted to
Mm-hmm.
marry her.
Mm-hmm.
So her idea of this relationship was that it was very serious.
Exactly. And Probably you too. Like, let's be
Exactly.
so for real. And this is just like a reminder to everyone out there, don't do the situationships.
Mm-hmm.
AD. Don't do the situationships. We will get to you. But like, the
Yeah.
technicality of she wasn't my girlfriend, but you're talking about marriage, get out of here. Get out of
Right.
here with
Don't do
that.
that.
So yeah, Nick Lachey says, you don't say I love you to someone you don't care about. So what is it? Trevor says him and this woman are toxic. First of all, keep this woman name out your mouth. Don't label her anything, because honestly, this reunion episode went easy on you because this woman had more allegations against you of how you wanted to try and keep her quiet. So
Right.
let's not do that, Trevor. Let's not do that. And then, okay, I am now, we've, as a society, we've gone, I don't know where we've gone in the mention of therapy, because I felt this way for a while now, is that like the favorite thing that the audiences love tweeting and like sending to people on these shows like Chelsea is like, go to therapy. And
Yeah.
it's like, first of all, these people are offered therapy throughout the show, whether that therapy is good or not, like it's up to you, but they also pay for it afterwards because it's just a liability if someone's going
Right.
to harm themselves. So it's like, all right, that's not a catch. But then to see how these men are using therapy, because what is Trevor's go-to then? I should go to therapy.
Yeah.
You can't even sit in the wrongdoing that you just did. You just immediately jump to, well, you know, I need therapy and I need to change. Let's move on to the next thing.
Right.
First of all, you know how hard Clay has been working at the therapy angle. He worked that shit every episode. You can't steal his storyline like
You
that.
literally can't. Again, I was like, I feel like that was also a part of his little planned out thing that he was gonna say of like, we were
Yeah.
toxic together. I now realize that I need to go to therapy. But it's like, nah, boo boo, like that.
Nah,
Don't try to
nah,
sell us on that. We
nah.
know too much now. We know too much.
No. And then Jimmy was asked for some reason to comment, and he's like, I'll stay out of it, pumpkin. Jimmy got some shots in. And
Oh yeah.
honestly, I forgot to. Now, the diabolical part of also Jeremy, because when we talked about the episode where it came out that Jeremy showed Jimmy's uh
The picture of
Jess's
Jessica.
picture to Jimmy, I was like, what is Jeremy doing? And then it turns out that he was saying in the pods when Jimmy was between multiple women, well, at least I can sleep at night because I'm not gonna look bad as Jimmy.
Right. And then Laura notes when she's talking to Sarah Ann at the lake day, which we did not see in the actual season until the reunion,
Mm-hmm.
that Jeremy just really cares about his image.
Mm-hmm.
And all he could talk about was his image and how he's going to look worse than Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's like, this is a TV show, right? And so people are aware that they're on a TV show. And from his vantage point, he was already thinking that Jimmy was going to be a villain of some sorts on this season.
Look. And that's also very telling. Let's just say that for everyone that's like, oh, Jimmy has been such a perfect partner to Chelsea and everything. And even Jess later says, I'm Team Chelsea. So
But she also has a vested interest in being Team Chelsea
she
because
does.
she was like, I now have to be Chelsea's best friend because I was messy as hell trying to scheme on how to take her man.
True. But also AD backs up Chelsea. I'm just like, I'm believing Chelsea. I'm gonna believe women. I'm gonna believe women
Right.
even when they're messy, okay? Because Jimmy, what the hell? But yeah, and it's very telling that Jeremy sees only Jimmy as his competition of like who's gonna look like a good man and everything. He was like, I
Right.
just need to be Jimmy. He's like, I don't care about Clay, I don't care about Kenneth. It's
Yeah.
very telling.
Yeah. And it might have been because of like the direct correlation of like choosing between women. Also, him and Jimmy had that in common of like
That's true.
how that choice is made.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's inevitably they're breaking someone's heart, and so how that will be
Mm-hmm.
portrayed. And Jimmy definitely, like, his breakups were much messier because
Yes,
Sarah Ann played it so cool. Sarah Ann
he
was like,
did.
okay, whereas like Jimmy and Jessica, she was not happy, and it was clear.
Yes, that is very true. Um, you know what? And then so one thing, Brittany pipes up.
Yeah.
Remember her, Brittany?
Yeah.
She was engaged to Kenneth. She's sitting here the whole time. They barely ask her anything. But when they were digging into Trevor, she speaks up and she says everyone was 10 toes down in this experiment. Now, Jordan, my partner, was right next to me, and Jordan was like, Brittany, you don't say that. And I was
Your
like,
man was on his phone the entire time, so don't do that.
but it wasn't even that. It's the phrasing that she said 10 toes down. And I was like, Brittany's the one who made it very clear she dates black men. And Jordan was like, I don't care. She don't say that. And she's like, she tried it. She tried it.
The same one who was like, he identifies as a black man. Talking about some 10 toes down. I'm dead.
So ridiculous. So ridiculous. Oh my God. But yeah, Trevor, he asked if he could leave. It was like a little boy who just got in trouble and he's like, can I go now? And they're just like, yeah, you're grounded forever. And I swear, Netflix, if you put Trevor on Perfect Match, like I want to believe that they would actually take something like this seriously, but I also like just so aware of pop culture, and they will turn a villain into like a possible love interest and give him a redemption arc if they have a certain look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought The Perfect Match had already filmed.
Probably. But then it's like, but they cycle through people. Like, did you watch the first season?
Yeah. I was like, it's already filmed, so he might have been in the season, but he might have also left really quickly, depending on
That's
how things
also what I'm
went.
wondering. Yeah, I'm really wondering about that. So we'll see if Netflix stands behind their stance.
Right. I will say it was messy as hell when Vanessa Lachey was like, did you do this to try to advance your career? And he was like, what career? I was like,
He sure
not this
did.
self-read, not this self-read.
He sure did. He said, what career? You know you were gaining social media following, though. Like, you know what you were doing online. So,
it's like, sir, don't do that. But also, that was funny.
Yeah. So interesting. Where do we go from here? We did talk a little bit about Brittany and Kenneth. I guess we can just wrap up their situation. So the only thing that really went on is that Brittany, she revealed that they were waiting for marriage before sex. The cameramen were messy because they went right to 80.
I'm dead.
They cut to 80 quick. She was like, I don't think I need that. That's like a bonus on top of the relationship. So that was never going to be it. Kenneth said that he was trying to find the middle ground between, because he's a principal, guys. We got to remember he is a principal and he's a very active one. So middle ground between this and his relationship. Nick, okay. When Nick and Vanessa started bringing their own freaking relationship into this, and this is something I caught multiple times with people talking about this daggone show, whether it's watching it, participating, that it's like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
This show is not therapy.
Mm-mm.
This
is, as Sarah Ann said, this is for entertainment.
Exactly. Entertainment.
This is not
okay?
what you use as a guidepost for therapy for your own relationship. I mean, I kind of got what Brennan was saying of like, I guess being able to like understand and empathize what the folks are going through and like relive your own experience. But like, this is not like therapy at all because there's too much dysfunction everywhere across this to be like, yeah.
If anything, it's like a starting point for certain conversations, which is what we're doing on Black by Reality. Therapy, no.
No. Yeah. Also, it was very clear they did not have much for Kenneth and Brittany.
No.
Their question came from one of the former couples. I was just
Yeah.
like, dang, why are they here then? How is Jess speaking more than Kenneth and Brittany, and Kenneth and Brittany were engaged?
Exactly. But they're on good terms. They're besties. They FaceTime and talk all the time. So it's good. Kenneth also wanted to clarify. He was like, oh, I was emotional about our breakup, but we handle things differently. He said he called Clay and said he was broken up about this. So
like, you're calling Clay?
look, it's probably better than Jimmy. Jimmy, who's like, I have girlfriends because I need to talk about my emotions with girls, not boys.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. I was just like, oh, the gender norms.
What is going
Stereotypes.
on?
Especially because it's so weird, because I will say it does make sense, because I think it was Kenneth and Jamal who were with Clay, right? When Clay was talking about his situation with AD. And they were Clay was being emotional with other men. Like,
yes.
very possible for men to have emotional connections and friendships with other men. Like, that was
Yeah. But it's also like, this is kind of funny because I feel like we're used to like these kind of conversations of like, is she a girl's girl and everything? And it seems like Jimmy's not a boy's boy.
No.
Like, and the fact that Jeremy's snaky ass was like, oh, I want to look better than Jimmy. Like,
right.
That's some catty stuff.
Jimmy's like, that's exactly why I don't like being friends with boys. They're mean.
They're mean. Yeah. They're catty. I'm gonna stick with my girls, okay?
But also recognizing how catty and petty Jeremy is, it started to make sense why the two women he was gravitating towards in the pods, right? Like, Laura's pretty mean, has an interesting sense of humor, and Sarah Ann definitely ain't no girl's girl and is not very nice.
No. Very interesting. All right. Should we get to AD and Clay?
Sure.
All right, these two. So what happened after the altar? Well, AD claims a lot of weeks went by before they talked. I don't believe you. Weeks?
I was like, weeks?
Days, maybe. Maybe.
Also, it should have been months.
Truly.
You should have given yourself some time.
And then Clay, he smiled, saying that there were a lot of messages that weren't responded to. But he's like smiling at AD fondly, and I'm like, you guys are lying.
They are lying. Their whole energy towards each other. It's like, y'all are clearly still involved. Somehow, some way, it's very evident that y'all are still involved. So stop playing in my face.
Exactly, AD talking to Clay of, you played in my face. You're playing in our faces right now. AD looks at Clay after talking about her love for this man, which I'm like, and it's not a look of hurt. I was like, she's still in it. Like,
and the present tense that she used, they keep using present tense as they talk about being in love with each other. Not I had so much love, I loved. No, it's like, I love her so much. I love this, my love for this man. I'm like, gross.
Tone of voice of gross. So this is the thing. AD is asked whether she would date him again. She doesn't answer. She pauses. She looks at him. I'm like, what is so hard about saying no? But she has him. See, this is like her trying to pull a Jimmy of like, right. I'm going to set you up for you to talk highly of me. But it's still not even like she really shoots him down, because she was Clay says yes to the same answer. She says, "Nuh-uh, because you had a chance." And I wrote down, I was like, why not just say that the first time if that's how you really feel?
But it's not how she really feels.
She really wanted to hear that yes.
She did. She wanted to hear him say that yes. And for me, I'm just like, this whole thing, I feel like AD, the way she's presenting this is like clearly she's trying to make it seem like now she has the power in the relationship, because previously clearly it was all Clay was the decision maker of how she framed their relationship, because in reality AD had decision making power this entire time. She did not have to choose Clay
No.
just because she didn't have to.
Because Matthew
Literally, she didn't
messed
have to
up,
choose him. She could have went home like Amber,
but she didn't want to.
but she chose him. She continued to choose him and then positioned herself as if though she was at his mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And he rejected her at the altar. And now
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to be like, oh, well, you like that. Now, essentially trying to make him win her back. But I'm like, this should just be a clear and cut thing of like, it's
No.
over.
If you become a better man, you're a better man for someone else, not me.
Right.
But she's holding on for whatever reason. So at this point, Clay, he gets choked up talking about the perception that he is a red flag. He says he went to therapy, had to try out several therapists, and he wants to be a good guy. When he's about to cry, she's touching his leg.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then she's also telling him he's a good guy.
Exactly.
Please. And then okay, let's talk about the whole conversation around black men that Clay went to, because I have complicated feelings, because I think his personal issues and family issues, he relates it to then black men. He said a lot of black men can relate to this coming from a broken household. I don't like that.
Right. Because it actually perpetuates this racist narrative around black families.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm just like, infidelity is a pretty common thing in many relationships.
Many white households have a broken home. Like
across race, men often cheat in relationship. That is not like,
that's not unique.
no.
And then now Nick Lachey asked Clay, "Did your daddy apologize?" This was too real. The same reason why I really appreciated the finale for being so real. Clay's answer was real as hell, because he said, "This man didn't apologize. Are you kidding me?" He said in his way. Ooh, I know a lot of people need in his way to still be in community with their parents and everything. The
Right.
way I personally had to let go of in her way, because it's not an apology. They don't think they have anything to apologize for when they get to a certain level of actual narcissism and abuse. Nah, you're not getting an apology.
Right. It's clear that Clay still needs to have like this rationalization around his father, because even when he notes that of like, he hasn't apologized, but in his own way, and then he's like, my dad was a good father, like
a good father, like that's a self-protection.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, it's like, as much as I get frustrated with Clay, it's like I also just like have so much empathy for Clay, because there's so much learning he needs to do. And I think I get frustrated with AD, because I'm like, girl, you also have your own learning to do, and you don't need to be worried behind this man. He got his work to do, and you got your work to do. And maybe one day y'all will come back together, but now,
no, we can't say that, Quita.
Well, my thing is like,
because that's when mistakes are gonna happen.
I guess for me, I'm like, you never know what may happen, but you can't do this. You can't do your work hinging upon the possibility. It's like, if that happens, that just may happen. That's just life. But like, you have to do your work and he has to do his work, and it has nothing to do with each other.
Yes. Yeah, this is such mess, because even from here, they start talking about Matthew, and this woman, when they're talking about, oh, have you ever talked to Matthew? First of all, And this is a huge tell that these two are still seeing, have
Exactly.
some kind of like ownership over each other, because AD looks at him and she was like, yeah. And then this is the funny thing, because again, this is such a study of like the delusion of where each other is at. Because Clay, he's looking around. He's almost looking
Right.
everywhere but 80. Finally
Right.
lands on the 80. 80 looks at him. And she's like, I just feel his eyes like staring at me. He was not staring at you. This man is not threatened by Matthew. If you think he got worked up because he was threatened by Matthew and
No.
not the disbelief that you would be into a man like Matthew.
Right. I'm like, this is the delusion. This is like further evidence why AD needs to do her own work. Because I'm like,
You lost
baby,
the plot.
you've been lost the plot. That man was not jealous. He was concerned because he's like, ain't no way somebody that I'm really into could also be really into this nigga Matthew. Because it's like at first he was like, Matthew? Who the hell is Matthew? Matthew? That guy?
Yes.
What? You know, I'm just like,
Yes.
AD, baby, that wasn't no jealousy. That was some deep concern of like, what are you talking about? You're into Matthew.
Exactly. But she doesn't see it. And I don't know. And then when she was trying to be like, well, I went on like 3 dates. Well, like 2.5, because the one was apology. Why are you even giving Matthew that? You were like kind of on stage. This man didn't even bother to come. He didn't want to talk about this stuff with you. But you are putting yourself out there, kind of claiming like, yeah, I entertained this man. Then they had to play the clip. We already knew Matthew was lying about saying the same thing to both. But yeah, he was like, oh, I made my decision. I feel like he gave more affirmation to Lauren or whatever than
Amber,
AD.
the other Amber. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot it was both Ambers.
Yeah, it was 2 Ambers.
That's wild.
That's diabolical. That's what I'm saying. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
like, AD, you should have gave Matthew your whole entire ass to kiss, because the reality is she said the thing that hurt her the most, that was the thing that she already had confirmation in the pause that he said to both of them. So why are you going out with him back in the real world for what? You don't need his apology. Why are you entertaining this? Why?
I don't know. She really don't think she can do better, I guess. But like, that's wild. That's wild to even claim that on international television after everything he's done. And then she keeps turning to Clay to kiki about this
Because I feel
the
like
clip.
Right. And it's like, I feel like she wants to use this thing with Matthew as like a jealousy thing / a like, you know, I'm just like,
yeah.
Clay is
She's looking at him.
jealous.
Can you believe this man? And he's like, I told you this man was crazy. Like, what are you looking at me for? He literally was like, what do you want me to say? Because like, I think it's wild that you are into him at all.
Right.
So,
and honestly, it's like this whole thing with like Matthew is not going to make Clay jealous. It's just going to affirm he knows how goofy you can get about a man, honestly. Just further affirmation. He's like, oh, I have a chance. Matthew had a chance to have 2.5, 3 dates after the pods. Oh, I definitely got this on lock.
And she still had the nerve to say Matthew was attractive.
I'm like, even if you're physically attracted to him, the fact that this man said what he said to both of y'all, it cancels all of any potential physical attraction.
She got no boundaries. No boundaries. So they never got a straight answer, at least of what's going on. So we find out later, AD has done an interview with Nick Viall. She says they're flirty friends. A situationship? Is this what we're getting?
And it's like, Clay is getting what he wants, essentially. Literally.
She acted like, oh, actually, me being flirty with him is to show what he's missing out on. But a lot of people are like, he got exactly what he wanted. Like, he
Right.
could play in your face, embarrass you in front of all your family and everything, and you're still gonna be hugged up and flirting with him when you see him. That's
He's right. He
wild.
still has access to you. He still has access to you physically, emotionally, mentally. He still has access to you.
I feel like these two have been constantly been in a bad bitch off. Who's the
Right.
baddest bitch? And like, because everyone hated that Clay would not hype 80 up as much as himself. And if it was about her body, but I feel like 80 also has been like really trying to hype herself up and be like, yeah,
Mhm.
which she should, but it's like it feels like a big power struggle at the end of this of who's winning and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, this ain't good. This ain't good.
It
Don't be in a bad bitch off with your ex. Please don't.
exactly. Because it's like, ultimately, I'm like, clearly Clay has discovered that he is not ready to be married right now. He's realizing there's a lot of inner work that he needs to do. But
Mhm.
if AD truly believes she's ready to be married, the fact that she's in a bad bitch power struggle with her ex and being flirty friends with him, I think clearly indicates that she also isn't ready to be
Not
married.
ready.
Right. It's like she's still on this like goofy time, like cool, which is fine, But I'm like, be 10 toes down. Be like, sure, we're still in a situationship because I'm very attracted to this man
Mhm.
and I'll go settle down at a later time. Like, I think that's
Yes.
what's annoying me about the situation is, yeah, she's doing this like thing of like trying to be like,
I
oh,
don't
I'm gonna play
care.
coy. I don't care, but it's like you clearly care. You keep looking to him for literal
Mhm.
confirmation and validation about everything you're
Mhm.
saying. You care a lot. Just say that. Just say you care.
Mhm. She cares a lot. She cares a whole lot. Whew. Now, Chelsea and Jimmy. All right. So these two, Jimmy was like, I'm not even trying to go to the altar like that right now. Let's just cool it. There has been so many awkward instances before we finally get to them. But yeah, Chelsea and Jimmy. So Jess, at that point, they handled the whole Jess, how she talked to Laura about it was very disrespectful. Jimmy gets asked, hey, how's that friend that came onto the show and then was outed of having a sexual past with you? Jimmy says that his friend didn't love hearing that. He said that her friend was to him. She was like, why did you even say this? Which is very interesting. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
also, okay, who should have Jimmy said anything or not?
I think he should have.
Exactly.
For me,
This,
yeah, I'm just like, if you're trying to marry Chelsea, you have to be honest about it, especially because she's still around. Like, of course,
yeah.
if it's somebody you hooked up with and y'all don't talk anymore, whatever, you don't have to divulge all of that. But like, the fact that this girl is around you all the time, y'all talk consistently, like being
Mm-hmm.
transparent with your partner about that past, I think is only right so they can make the choice of how they want to proceed in the relationship.
Can you imagine how bad this reunion would have been if Jimmy hid it and then it came out later that he
Like,
had a sexual past with his friend? He would have got the same grilling as Trevor.
yeah, you would have got the Trevor treatment for
So
sure.
I don't know what that mindset is for that person, to think that he shouldn't have said anything, but it's like that's not true. And then for Chelsea, she still says, yes, I am humiliated by how I handled that. It was not good, but also like this whole situation of him having this past with this person was what was getting to me. And she said at that point she forgot the cameras were there.
I mean, in that particular argument, she was drunk. So
She was
like
drunk.
she's just in her feelings. She didn't think about none of this going around her. She's just in her
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah. Basically. So I don't know if he's still friends with this person. I would have asked that, but we didn't get that. Jimmy said in hindsight he should have ended the relationship after that fight, but he didn't because they loved each other.
I don't know if I
Okay.
believe that, but whatever. But I mean,
I
she
don't
did
believe it either.
him to stay. I'm like, I do know for sure she begged him to stay with her. So
She did. She did. I think that's part of it. But I think from this reunion, I think all of these men were hyper aware of how they were being portrayed. And
yeah.
Jimmy didn't want to look like a bad guy.
No, he didn't, but I'm like, I think it would have looked better on him had he just ended it then. Because
I can
you
see a
know,
world where he thought, though, that, oh,
yeah,
it's so harsh, especially that she accuses him of being out with another woman. If he leaves now, that could just probably confirm her suspicions. He has to like stick it out a little longer to show, like, no, Chelsea's in the wrong or whatever. Like, I see that world as well. But yeah, this was a whole hot mess. 80 says she was surprised by Chelsea's edit, which, like, do we get edits or not? Jess is saying there is none. 80 is like, I'm surprised because I have seen a carefree, confident person, not the person that I'm seeing on my television screen every day.
I think also part of that is like how people show up privately in their relationships versus how they
Mm-hmm.
portray themselves to other people. And Jimmy and Chelsea were both like they both did that. They were both hyper aware of how they presented themselves when they were in group situations, when they were with family, when they were meeting the friends versus what they were doing when they were alone with each other and how they interacted with each other. So I'm sure the Chelsea that she saw was very different because honestly, we would see two different Chelseas when she's with the girls versus when she's with Jimmy.
That's true. That's very true. In the end, Chelsea's actually very proud of herself for how she handled the Megan Fox whole debacle because people have been going in on her.
Yeah.
I think I'm also proud of her, honestly, because, like, F y'all. Forget that.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. And Jess later on, she brings up how she was like out there defending Jess, and Trevor could have spoke up at any moment. He just didn't. So, like, she was like, that's not a good look, my dude.
I mean, he was too busy trying to figure out how he was gonna advocate for himself in the middle of his mess coming out, I guess.
No, he was doing well. He was doing well quite a while on social media, talking about like his dog and everything, and like trying to pull at people's heartstrings. I think that's when Jess was like, you could have done more about that. And yeah, again, everyone so highly concerned about how they look. These men, it's like the men's bad behavior has to be super obvious for them to even get any consequences. And yet I still think women on this show get a harder go of it. Like Chelsea, yeah, the harder go of it. I still think of Zaynab and how she also told everyone to be like, I don't care.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting. Like the
It's
Zaynab
very
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Zaynab. Yeah.
Oh, Zaynab. All right. So in the end, we're teased. We're getting a perfect match. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Oh, I will say that the producers were messy. I was like, Zaynab, I was like, there was something I was going to mention about that situation. The cutie situation, like they teed up with Jessica and Jimmy of like when there was the discrepancy because Jess calls him out. Because when he says the thing, she says, like, you know, you did these interviews saying that I had a good edit. And
that she
he
walked
was
out 10 minutes
into a date, and he's like, that's what it felt like. And she was like, well, you didn't say that's what it felt like. You
it was like
made
an
it seem
hour
like,
and a half.
and it was in total like a 2 hour and something date. So it's just
Came in
like
after an 8-minute break and then still sat there for like another 50 minutes.
I'm just like,
And
Jimmy,
that's why
you
Jimmy.
ain't shit. You really ain't shit, my dude. Like,
Mm-mm,
nah, he
mm-mm,
said that's what it felt like. He's like, I'll give it 45 minutes tops. Producers are like, in fact, it was over an hour and a half with an
mm-hmm,
additional 50 minutes after less than a 10-minute break.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
Jimmy, that ain't it. That ain't it,
that
bro.
ain't it. Yeah.
But yeah,
Need to apologize. Need to apologize. Chelsea and Jimmy apparently are cool, but just like
that's what I was gonna
everyone
say.
in
It's
this
like the
cast needs
similar thing.
boundaries.
The
Boundaries.
AD and Clay thing, them, I'm just like, did y'all not watch yourselves on TV? Why are y'all trying to
But
hang out and be buddy buddy with each other?
I will say Chelsea and Jimmy had a totally different energy than Clay and AD.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
So Jimmy likes to collect them all. After he breaks up with someone, he likes to
That's
keep
true.
them around. So it's probably just like an actual we're cool, whatever. And then Jimmy still try to throw in and she hangs out with the next and she's like, I don't do that. Like
But
what?
again, she said that. She said one of my
Mm-hmm.
best friends is an ex. And normally when you describe someone as your best friend, you hang out with that person.
Yeah.
So it's like, girl, you shouldn't have hyped it up so much because you were trying. Because it's like clear now the way
She
she
was
keeps
trying to be
talking.
the cool
She
girl. Like,
was. So it's like,
yeah,
don't do that because now your own words are coming back to bite you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god. All right. That did we did we have a beautiful black moment of this episode? I don't think we've been very consistent on the
We
Love is Blind
haven't. Love
recaps,
is Blind.
but
We haven't done them. I would say 80's outfit. She looked really gorgeous. Like the whole look, she was
mhm,
really gorgeous. I love that.
mhm.
Also, nah, say it with your chest. That was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, yeah. Mine is the time that Brett got because
Mhm.
Clay revealed that he was talking about Brett of like, oh, people in the previous seasons did a good job and seemed prepared for this. I did note though, Brett was like, I didn't come from a family that is
Yeah,
so called like together and everything like that. I had my own doubts, but I still did what I was supposed to do. And I loved my partner. Like, that's the thing. It's like, that's why the whole, oh, like a lot of black men don't, I'm not buying it. Cause like, you
right.
know this, but you can still try. It's just trying.
It's trying. And also it's like not fair because if you're insinuating this about many black families, that also means that black women are also growing up in similar families, but
Exactly.
seemingly show up differently in the relationship because they're actually trying
Somehow.
and you're not. So just yeah. I think also what you mentioned around the issue with Clay's framing around like race and relationships, I think
Mhm.
it's like he doesn't quite have the language around like, you know, infidelity is pretty common, right? But like stereotypes of black men
Mhm.
impact how black men experience the world. And when they
Yes.
do things like cheating, which is very common in relationships, like how we view them is much different. And I
Mhm.
also think there's a conversation around like, you know, racial dynamics in reality TV too, and how we perceive
Absolutely.
black people on these shows versus how we, you know, I'm just like, for instance, the fact that Jessica has gotten so famous or Jess has gotten so famous off of a
Yeah.
season where she literally did not get engaged or even
Mhm.
selected, you know,
Mhm.
like versus like, you know, she's bigger than AD. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, but AD is what actually went to the altar. I mean, hell, she's bigger
Yeah.
than Amy. And
Mhm.
Amy is literally got married, is
Mhm.
still married. So I just think it's all very interesting. But like Clay wasn't there yet to have that conversation around race and gender.
Nah. Nah. He's still just starting out. We got to take it slow with him. Do we have a chaotic bye moment of this reunion?
Mm, it's all so hetero.
It's also hetero. I do agree. It's very hetero, but there was chaos. in this
So
episode.
much.
I will say that.
Maybe like Jess and Sarah Ann, that was just like, I was just like, Jessica, shut up. Is her name Jessica? Am I just calling her Jessica? Like, I was like,
It has to be Jessica, but
it
she's
has to
going
be
by
Jessica.
Jess.
She's going by Jess, but it's just like, I know you're not calling out this girl for trying to take somebody's man, and you were scheming on how to take somebody's man.
For some reason, I wanted to be Nick and Vanessa teaming up on Trevor by reading aloud his text to him. Like, it was just like, we don't root for Nick and Vanessa at any time, any point, but they did that. They ate that.
They did. They really came in strong on the first half, because they even asked Jeremy about his previous engagement. It's like they really they showed Sarah Ann her TikTok. They really they came in hard. They gave the people what they wanted in the first half of the reunion. I feel like there's a lot that was skated past in the second half, but
yes.
Yeah.
Will you be watching Perfect Match?
Oh yeah, I love Perfect Match. I feel like, because I don't watch like Love Island and stuff. Like, I don't watch those. So if for me, it kind of gives me, I think, what people who like Love Island often get, or like Too Hot to Handle. I don't watch that one either. I feel like Perfect Match gives me that type of vibe. How about you?
I probably will, but I will also be very frustrated if it's like, if we get another like Francesca situation. I was so over Francesca by like the first time around, and then she went back to her partner that she already had. So it's like,
yeah,
okay. I actually wonder if Clay and AD will be on Perfect Match, because technically, I think this is interesting, because I think it's like, if they're playing the game, like Jess is playing the game, because let's be so for real, her even coming on Love is Blind was freaking wild of her as a mother, of just like, yeah, you're gonna marry someone in 4 weeks. That's wild. But if they're playing it the same way and they're like, we might be together, might not, stay tuned, and because they're technically single, they can go on Perfect Match. Maybe have a storyline themselves. I would watch, unfortunately.
Yeah. Were there other exes in the Perfect Match season? I'm trying to think.
Too. Yeah, there was. I feel like there was an ex drama with the
Damien
blonde
and Francesca.
Oh yeah, which I did not believe. Right. I did not believe. Francesca got somebody in Netflix, a guardian angel, because she was able to go on after the altar and she didn't belong there.
Yeah, and it was because of Damien, right? It was like they were in some type of friendship situation.
Which they claim. But it's like, that's that stuff that I'm like, Jess is on her way to be the same thing, and it's going to be really annoying if none of her storylines are even real.
Like, that's what, when you said like, I just hope we don't get a Francesca situation. I was like, well, Jess and Micah are both confirmed to be both on this upcoming season. So I think it'll definitely be a situation like that. We've already seen pictures come out with Jess and someone who is rumored to also be on the upcoming season of the Perfect Match. So I'm just like, it's gonna be some mess. Like,
it's gonna be some mess,
and probably manufactured mess. I also hope with this season that it won't be as like clearly like the clear elements of like racism and misogynoir that was just so apparent. Yeah.
I agree. That would be very frustrating. That's why I'm like, it sucks to even be like, oh, maybe Clay and AD, but that also gives an assurance that someone's going to be there for AD. And that's just like the real.
But, and there has to be more than one person too. I think that becomes the issue, is like, the number of men on these shows who will date Black women. Black women who are not ambiguously Black, like they are clearly Black and not mixed, not, don't have other features, like they are Black. Like we need more men who actually date Black women.
Agreed. Well, I think that's it for our recap for this reunion. Thank you so much, Quita, for being my co-host for this series. Once again, where can people follow you in the in-between?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at hello_Quita.
And I am your host, Nicole Weaver. You can follow me at Nikki Bernice across different socials. But most importantly, please follow Black by Reality across all socials. We are going to continue churning out content. Right now, we're covering Survivor, and I will have different guests each week. And then we'll see what comes along. I know Tiffany Pollard has a queer show coming up that's probably not too dissimilar from Couple to Thruple. So we'll keep an eye out on that and whether queer Black reality shows are going on. If there's anything you guys want us to cover, actually comment below if you're on YouTube. And please stay subscribed so you don't miss anything. Bye. Boom.